Hi, my name is Mike Holt, and we're going to do a little video here about how to prepare and pass your electrical exam. Whether you're going for the journeyman's, the masters, whether it's going to be your inspectors, whatever you're going to be taking. Actually, it's not even all related to electrical. It has to do with preparation. In my exam preparation book, we have a section, and also we have it on the website for free. Some information to pass the exam. I'm just going to kind of read through this. I got my team here. They're going to kind of jump and give some information and some of the things that they might have done. First thing I want to just say here is you need a support system. And sometimes you don't have that support system. And you're trying to prepare and you're trying to make some decisions and people are like, do you have to do this? You have to do that. In my experience over time is that sometimes people don't want you to succeed. When I was studying my own and I'd be on the job site and I'd be sitting there reading my code book and working some examples, I got mocked at, oh, Mr. Code, oh, Mr. Big Shot. And I couldn't figure out what was that all about. The funny thing is, years later, as I started my school, every one of those people that made fun of me took my class, ended up taking the test and passing it. You need to get support from the people that you're with, your family, your children, your friends. And so how about you guys? You guys have any experience when anybody have a problem?
Well, I think 100% agree with that. I know that, several times as I've been preparing for my tests, I have to communicate to my family, especially to my wife, and say, hey, listen, this is really important. I need a lot of quiet time, not ignoring you. And that way she's not offended and she knows it's important. I mean, it's good for the well-being of our family. So you just kind of communicate that need and that goal, and then you're both on the same page, and she'll actually help.
And that's what I have right here in the book, is just communicate with your family. Listen, everybody, you have to have a team. And it's hard on the children. It's hard on the wife. You're making these decisions. You're working late at night. You have to study in the morning. I mean, I would study early in the morning. I would study at night. I mean, my family knew, listen, I have to pass this test. This is part of my success. And, it gets a little old after a while, though. I mean, you're watching all the videos. You're doing all the stuff. And you really have to sometimes realize, okay, you got to pace yourself. If somebody's thinking to pass a test in 6 weeks or in a week or in 3 months, it's not going to happen. If you're going to be a journeyman electrician, you got a lot of responsibility that when you get licensed, because people expect you to know what you're doing. If you're going to be a master electrician, you're going to be an inspector. I mean, listen, guys, don't just take this that you're going to study something quickly and get it over with, because then people expect you to know what you're doing, and you don't know what you're doing. So therefore, it's a big commitment, and make a decision to go there. Eric?
Yeah, I would actually go to the library, because it was difficult
Yep.
sometimes, exactly because of what you're saying. If I'm at the house, there's the distractions at the house, something always comes up. I said, hey, you know what, I've got a really important test to study for, I'm going to go to the library. And just the fact of being in a different location just helped me study. It helped me concentrate and focus.
Yep. Yep, 100%. You find a spot you have to do there. Point here I have here is on stress. As we go along through this little program we have here, it's a big part. You're worried about whether you're going to pass the test. You're working hard. You have the family members. You're going to have to figure out how to work out of that stress, and try to manage that to your benefit. I mean, it's all you can possibly do. It's going to be very stressful. Brian?
Well, I think that actually leads into just the whole mental game for this whole process of preparing for an examination. And a lot of people, I think, I just listened to something recently talking about being motivated to do something. And basically the lady that was presenting it said, look, motivation is a fallacy. Motivation is just a word because we think someday we're going to feel like doing something. The reality of the matter is this is a long-term goal, and in order to be motivated, you have to just decide, I am going to do this. So when you don't feel motivated, you're still going to study, you're still going to get up early. When you get through 1,000 of the 2,500 practice questions, you finish the other 1,500, not because you feel like it, but because the goal is what you have in mind.
Yes. You want to say that? Eric?
And you know what? It gets back to the one word vision. It really gets back to vision. You do something because you have a vision for it. You go to the library because you have a vision for it. You say no to people because you have a vision. And so that vision consumes you. And when you've done 100 problems, but you have 100 more, it's the vision that keeps you going.
Well, you know what? This whole thing, I remember seeing this, and some of you guys instructors, you see some person, they have great potential, and they're just not there. And I would tell them, look, get out of the class, drop out. I'll give you your money back. You're not ready. You're not ready. When you're ready, You come back when you're ready to make the dedication and commitment. And it has to do with when you're ready. A lot of things going on. The guy's young, and then all of a sudden, 5 years later, he's like, man, I wish I would have done it 5 years ago. But you see the person, he's committed now, he's focused. So those of you that are kind of, like you said, motivation, no, there's no such thing as motivation. You just got to decide, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. So you have to overcome the natural tendency of the brain to be lazy, to take the shortcut. That's just the way all our brains work inside there. So when you're ready, you might drop this video off and then someday come back to the video again and say, okay, I need to get ready. I'm ready to go now. I need to make the decision. We have in here about stress. Maybe you need, I've always been a world-class, well, not always, but I'm a world-class barefoot water skier. So I would be barefoot water skiing. I'm into mountain biking now. I'm under a lot of stress in my world. Mike Holt and all the stuff and the businesses and everything I have to do. I've always learned that I need to do something exercise. I can't do it all I want to, but by staying somewhat exercising, moving around, you got to figure out ways to reduce that stress. So just be careful that you're not just working so hard. And sometimes we have to, but you got to have some hope also. I always made it with the family communicating. Listen, guys, I'm showing you the goal here. We're going to get there. So just, we're almost there. We're just Brian, you and I, we have just two more months. Let's just get to May. We get the company weekend. It's like, okay, that was a tough 9 months, right? All right, attitude. Some of you guys are victims. Some of you guys are like, listen, I'm just going to do what it takes. I don't care, Mike. Tell me what I got to do. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to 100% do it. So you got to have the right attitude. I care. Have your eyes checked before you start going to any kind of a major reading program. Get your eyes checked. Find out that, you need prescription glasses or you need an adjustment for what you're reading, So get your eyes checked immediately and make sure you get the right reading glasses in there. Posture. You slouching, you're sitting down after a while, you know what I mean? So you got to realize, okay, you know what? Sit up, get up there. Because, the way you carry yourself, and Brian, sometimes, you just get dressed. You put on clothes, you take a shower, you get a nice clean shirt on. Sometimes you put on a tie. Sometimes you're basically putting on your armor. Listen, I'm on. Talk to me.
Well, that's the whole attitude of studying. The attitude of studying is whatever you invest in your studying will determine your level of success. If you're willing to get out of bed in the morning and instead of trying to lay on the couch in your pajamas and study some book in the dark, you get up, you get dressed just like it's a job. You're going to go out and put your 100% effort out, and you sit at the kitchen table or go to the library, whatever you happen to do, and you invest 100% of your attention into it, you're going to get 100% back out of it. And that goes to everything. You don't want to give your seconds to your studying. Give a fresh Saturday to studying. Give your morning time. Schedule time so that it's not just something that you're doing casually. You're actually invested in it.
Yep. Another note I have here after posture is training. Listen, you're an athlete. That's what people don't realize. Success, whether an athletic event or I don't care what you're doing, you got to be thinking like an athlete. You need to be taking care of yourself. Think about medication that you're taking. I don't know, drinking. You need to get yourself a little cleaned up here. You need to get focused inside here because you can't be performing and going out partying and then drinking and like you said, you come in late at night. You're going to try to get this. No. Mike Holt's success. Listen, I'm a high school dropout. I got a girl pregnant. I was 17 years old, and I didn't have a father, and I'm trying to get started. But for whatever reason, there was something inside me that maybe my stepfather, he always put me down. So maybe I'm trying to. A lot of times people are successful because of somebody in their life that's trying to prove. I don't know what the whole theory is. All I know is that I had a family, and I wanted to take care of my family, and I just wanted to work hard. I wanted to do what I had to do.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing about tests that I found out some time ago when I started teaching how to work on exams was statistically the people who stay the longest get the highest score. That's really critical.
At the exam itself.
At the exam itself.
Hold that part that we're going to talk about while we're in the exam site, what we're going to do. I'm talking about preparing yourself for it. Make sure you eat properly. Go to sleep timely. No world-class athlete is not eating properly and not sleeping. You got to put it all together. So that's preparing mentally, emotionally, and physically. Let's talk about setting up your study program. Okay, you need to prepare yourself. First thing I have here is get organized. As we tell people, sometimes you might have to take a closet, take all the clothes out of the closet and put a table in there and put a lamp in there and close the door and, tell the kids, listen, Dad's in there, and then you close the closet door and the bedroom door, and the little guys are running all over screaming and yelling, knocking on the door, Daddy, 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 and you're like, oh, man, And so you got to get organized, though. You can't make it where you pick up all your stuff off the dining room table, put it all away, and then you got to put it back in again, and you got to take it off. No, you have your pencils, your sharpeners, erasers, your notes, your code book, everything is laid out, your calculator, your computer. This is your station. You're organized. You can't afford not to be organized. Anybody comments on getting prepared? Anybody? Mark?
Yes, when I was going for my journeyman ticket, my wife and child, young daughter at the time, took vacation for 10 days while I was preparing.
Yeah.
So I had the whole dining room table to myself without that distraction.
I actually when I took my state of Florida exam, I went to a hotel for a week. It was in Florida. I just went to a hotel for a whole week that I can spend 24 hours a day, whatever I had to do to prepare. So, that's just before the test.
And get the books that you need, the proper books that you need. Find out what's going to be on the exam, because like the state of Florida may cover marinas more than Nebraska might. Nebraska is going to cover possibly more agricultural. So find out exactly what's going to be on that exam so that you know that when you're sitting down and you're going through the code book and other areas that may be in there is the state law. Get the state laws for that specific.
Know what the scope of your exam is.
Exactly. You need to find out what that is.
Inspectors are going to be different than the journeyman and master. You call my office and they'll get you all set with the right material. Boyd?
The easiest way to create a habit of studying is to take an existing habit you're already doing, something you already got going on every day. There's something you're doing, and piggybacking that time frame on with an additional habit. And once you've got going on that, I brush my teeth at whatever time. The next thing I'm going to do is start my study or whatever, and you can
You're
carry
saying have
it on.
a routine.
If you already have a set routine, if you piggyback it with the study, it's going to take off like that. If you are starting from scratch, it's going to be harder.
Okay. Anybody else comment? Yeah, Brad?
To piggyback on what Boyd said, I'm so used to responding to calendar events in Outlook, I would actually make a calendar event to study. So I would have to acknowledge it on the screen, and then I could go study in response to something, a prompt that I got.
Have a schedule, have a plan. Everybody knows what it is. We're going to get through this. We're going to complete it. Let's go on. Organize time management. Manage your time. That's part of that study program we talked about. Study with a friend. If you can study with somebody, that'd be great. I always studied with well, I didn't always, but you study with somebody. Study anywhere, anytime. Okay, Brian?
Well, I was just going to say, this is actually something that I learned from you years ago, but it's important to communicate to your friends, your coworkers, your employer, that, hey, listen, this is my study time, because people are not, once they know, they're like, oh, he's studying, I can't bother him. If you don't, your phone's going to be going crazy. That's the other thing too. Put your phone on silent, vibrate, hand it to somebody else, whatever, but your study time is your study time. That's the only thing it is. It's
Find
not
out what's
something
your
else.
best study time, right? Some people study better early in the morning. Some people later at night. When I was studying, I was just a machine. I studied every second. I had my books with me. If there was a break when I was working on the job site and they were waiting for something or waiting for material to get delivered or something like that, bingo, I was there studying. I just always had something to do 100% of the time. And Brian Tynan, what you said here in our little guide here, is find the best study time and then set priorities. Turn off your phones, turn off your Facebook notifications, and no, you're on and that's it. Let's talk about preparing for the test. Number one, what you did say, Dennis, is to make sure that you have the right study material.
Right.
If you contact our office, we have, I don't care what test you're taking there, we have the tools, particularly the books, the questions, the challenge questions, the videos. And talking about the videos, I think we kind of discussed this a little bit in the beginning of this library, that you get the book, you do the unit, you get the videos, you kind of work whatever you're going to work out. You watch the video first, then the book, and then you go back to the video, or you do the book and the video book, whatever it is. You figure out a way to work with the tools that we're going to provide for you. Brian?
Well, I just, I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that have, are you going to get your journeyman's card? It needs to be employees or whatever. And, oh, no, I tried to take that test and I failed it. And I'm like, well, what did you use to study with? What program? And they're like, well, I just use my code book. I just studied my code book. And I think it's really important to realize you're not going to, first of all, very unlikely you're going to study the code book and pass. But more importantly, you're certainly not going to understand what you need to understand. And there are good programs. We have a great program, but you have to have something that's going to take you from where you should start, not just the middle of the code book somewhere, to where you need to stop, so that you have a comprehensive understanding of what you need to know, and then you're comfortable when it's time to go take the test.
If you're taking a journeyman and master's, for a fact, our exam preparation book with the videos,
Yep.
you're starting with the theory and then you go to code and you finish this up here, you're going to be a qualified person as it comes with the knowledge there. All right, let's talk about taking the test. Moving on in a little guide here. You know, when you go to take the test, I had a couple comments here. Streamer says, people are watching this online as we're watching here, and I get a couple comments, and it says, exercise moderate will help relieve stress. So we talked about exercise and eating well just because that's part, but also that exercising is part of relieving that stress. And Sarah was saying here that her husband, Ken, one of our video members that was on the last class, I think, the last one there, he did every question he could find. He just took every single opportunity. In our exam prep book, I don't know, there's 4,500 questions in here. I get a call sometimes, well, you know, Mike, I don't think your book is that good for California. I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I call the guy up. Yeah, I said, well, I took the test, and not, you know, the questions in your book were not the same questions on the exam. I'm like, well, I don't have a problem with that, because we're not trying to teach you how to answer questions, teach you how to use a code book. I said, did you answer all the questions in my book? Well, most of them. And if you know me, I'm like, okay, so the answer is no. And that's what people do. They get to a certain part, and then they start skipping, and they start coming up with their own little technique instead of methodically having a system. And then guess what? If I went to this entire book and I completed the videos, I have to review it, right? I mean, I can't just like finish it without going back and just say, okay, let me get titled it, let me go back again, and let me make sure I understand it completely. So total being prepared. Okay, anything else before you got to notify the family, you got to be taking care of yourself, you got to have a study time, you got to set priorities, it's going to be stressful. Anything else before we talk about, okay, now you're taking a test? Boyd.
So you've gone to all this preparation to get to your point where you're going to take the test. My personal opinion, the night before you take the test, do something relaxing.
Yep.
Don't stress clear
yeah.
till the minute you take the test, or it's going to be a train wreck. Just get out of the test. Go out to a movie or something that's going to get your brain off.
And you're right. You know, like, you know, as a person who competes at a world-class level, I mean, you train as hard as you can, and then you start softening off. The last week before a competition, I'm not killing myself like I did 3 weeks before. You start just kind of tapering off, starting to get relaxing, get your mode. You have the knowledge. Listen, if you completed our program, you watched the videos, you've answered the questions, you've done the practice question at the end, then you get the simulated exam, you do the simulated exam, and you're kicking butt. You don't have to worry about the night before. I saw it. Eric?
Yeah, what I told my students is that there's two types of studying. One is the type of studying when you're relaxed, you're spending a lot of time trying to learn the underlying issues of the problem, you're learning, you're discovering everything about it. But then as you get closer to the exam, there's a type of studying that people do where they're panicking and they're concerned with getting the right answers. They're just looking for the right answers at A, B, C, or D. Once you hit that level of studying, just go ahead and quit.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing, like in sports. Like when I'm, let's say, doing barefooting, the moment I'm no longer focused and I'm now distracted and I'm falling, listen, the moment I no longer can maintain my body position or I can't do something, I'm not going to practice a mistake. Because then you're making mistakes and you're doing silly things and then you're getting frustrated. No. You need to know, you know what, right now, I'm kind of like not there, so I'm going to take a break off of this. Sometimes just take a break and go take a walk or go do something and all of a sudden take a shower, get cleaned up, and come back again. Like, I was having a problem with that. Dennis?
First thing, the night before, it's too late to cram. Don't even think about cramming that night. But what you need to do is you need to go find out where the testing agency is. the day before the test.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's been some times that when I went down just here this last year in New Mexico, the little room or area where this testing agency was, it was tucked back in some buildings, and it took me about 45 minutes to find it, to actually physically go to the door and find out where it was. Because, you know, I just do that anyway because I don't want to do it first thing in the morning.
100%. It's like sports. You're going to go somewhere and never been there. You're going to get there in the morning. You're not going to do like a pre-ride if you're a mountain biking. You're just going to show up and you think, no. There's an environment. I would always
Yep.
get there the day before. I go check in the hotel. I get to the location. I want to see the room. I want to see how high it is. I want to say hi to people. Just want to verify this is my spot. You know, I want to know what's going on. Okay. So the next morning, I'm not like, oh my gosh. Because you know what? Sometimes these exam sites they're all over the place now.
They
I mean,
are.
it isn't like you have to have a scheduled thing. And then you have a date and a time, but I mean, you go, and they're like in warehouses. They're in like in crazy places and shopping malls and stuff that GPS is off or the address has changed, but they really didn't give you the new. No. So you're right. So we're getting to the site now. We're all prepared. We've done the best we can. Realize you do the best you can. You got work. You have family. You know, nobody's going to be able to be perfect. You might not be able to do everything you want to do. And you find out saying, you know what? I'm still taking the test. Mike, I'm not totally prepared. What do you think I should do? Listen, I'm not a perfectionist. And I think that's good for me because I do all kinds of crazy things and I'm not prepared. I try all I possibly can. The worst thing that could happen is I gain some experience if I failed. I learn, okay, I now know how the computer works. I now know how this works. I know what the papers they give you. I know what books I can bring inside there. Let me tell you what's going to happen. You will pass the test. That's a fact. If you say, I'm passing the test, maybe not the first time. That's okay. Who cares if you pass the first time? I mean, nice, but what's important is that you stay focused and you complete it. Brian?
Well, you know, we all say the word failed the test, but one of the things, and I had several of the guys that I've helped over the years, either students or just guys that I've helped, they said, oh man, I failed the test twice. Well, no, actually, you've had the testing experience twice. You didn't fail.
No, you're right, you're right.
You just haven't gotten a passing score because the reality of the matter is every time you learn something, you learn, oh man, I wasn't strong in load calculations. I didn't know my transformers. I didn't have enough time to look up the code. Well, guess what? Now, if you didn't have enough time to look up the questions, guess what questions you need to work on to improve your speed so the next time you go, you can be successful. So don't look at it like I passed or I failed.
You only fail if you stop.
Exactly. That's when you fail. That's what I was going to say. You fail when you quit. That's when you fail.
I'm too stupid. I can't figure it. I've never met anybody that could not pass a test.
I had a student that took it 6 times
I
and
had a
passed it
student
on
that took it
his
7.
6th time.
13.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I had
I
a
know
gentleman
that 13.
in Wyoming take
Wow.
it 13
Nothing
times.
wrong
He
with that.
never gave up.
Nothing wrong with
Wow.
that.
Never gave up. He kept on going back and kept on going back. And he'd call me and I'd support him and he'd ask me certain questions, but he'd always go back. And it took him
Those are as an
13th
instructor,
time.
those are the people that you're so excited for that passes. The
Yes.
guy was acing everything. Hey, I passed. Yeah, whatever, buddy. Get out of my way. You know what I mean? Who cares about you? You know what I mean? You were the smart guy in the class. It's that guy. And it's the guy who's trying, who's committed. He's just on. And when he passes, you just feel, yes.
Yes.
Sarah was saying also, know the rules of the testing agency. I'm not good with rules. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't know that. I'm breaking all the rules I possibly can. I'm bringing in all the books. I'm bringing everything. And they're going to do what? They are going to tell me. Because, see, here's what I've learned in life, for me anyhow, in my world. Well, like in Italy, they tell you the laws are just suggestions, right? That's all they are. They're just a suggestion in Italy, okay? It's not really a requirement, just a suggestion. So I'm going to bring everything in there because I've learned in life that there are procedures and there's documents, but in reality, it isn't always that way everywhere all the time.
Right.
So I'd rather bring my code book that's highlighted and tabbed and marked. Let me see your book, Mike. Mike's book is highlighted and tabbed and marked. He doesn't have his tabs on it. We got to get you some tabs. And he has it all marked. Inside here. Okay. I'm comfortable with it. But him marking and tabbing, highlighting all that stuff, it's already in his brain. Whether or not he took a blank code book. He sees KW and he sees percentages and he sees commercial and he sees everything he has inside there. So, but then I would also bring another code book just in case I say, no, you can't use that. Like, okay, I'll use this one then. Not a problem. You can't have any paper on your own. Sure, come on, it's all white. You know, can't I just, what does it matter if I supply? Fine, thanks, you know. Other times like, give me the paper. Like, you know you're supposed to, didn't you read the rules? And I usually like, honestly, no, I didn't. That's what I would tell them. And they're like, fine, you know. Eric.
Yeah, for the professional engineering exam, it gets a little bit different. That you have got to know the rules. Because, for example, they give you their pencils that you must use for the exam. If you bring a pen in with you, and you know me, they will take it away from you. Okay, if you cannot have any pencil marks in any of your material, your reference material, they must be in pen. And so there have been students that have been kicked out because they broke the rules, and an 8-hour exam was lost.
Yeah, I would never, let me phrase that. I would never do something to get kicked out. I'm not going to say I would never break the rules. I'm just saying I would never do something that would put me in jeopardy. So if I know, okay, listen, you don't mark anything in pencil, well, then you don't mark anything in pencil. I mean, there's no reason to mark it in pencil. Everything is pen. Fine. All right, we done? We're ready to take the test now? Okay. We got there early. We checked it all out. We find out what the official rules are. We get our material together. We have an alarm clock. We have somebody call us up. We make sure everything is packed in. You don't put everything in your car the night before because somebody might steal your car. Okay? All right. You also plan on having a flat tire in the morning. So we plan on these possibilities happening. So you're going to get there way early. And make sure all your material is organized so you can just get up and go. Rather than like in the morning that you're starting to put everything together. And if you're like me, as long as if I have my cell phone in my hand, that means I have everything I need. Now, if I pick up something like this to bring with me, then guess what? I forgot my cell phone because my body knows it has to have something to carry. So it's easy for me to get distracted. So what you have to do is say, okay, it's all packed together. And hopefully if you have somebody that can help you, you know what I mean? I know I have my wife and she's reminding me for every single thing and you take this hand, this and like that. You know what I mean? So help that. So we're getting up, we're getting prepared, we're getting early, we're in the car, we're traveling. Anything up to that point, guys?
Absolutely. Better eat a very intelligent breakfast.
Yes.
You know, you don't want to have a lot of carbohydrates and starches that'll make you tired. You want good food. And when you go for lunch, you need to eat something that will keep you energized and keep you focused.
Sarah's saying here, when you get there, I guess before the test, they give you some questions to practice. Pointless questions. They're not really any value. Just to kind of get you used to the system. In other words, did you want to practice the process? I want to go right into it. Like, well, how about you take every opportunity, you go to the 10, okay, who was George Washington, our president, so these are just to give you the mouse motion or the key function, to clear it, to go back, to save it. It's very important that you use those kind of devices, right?
Well, I was going to say too, when you were talking about the car and getting there, things have changed a lot. You know, if you end up having an issue, dead battery, flat tire, don't try to fix it. Pick up your phone, get an Uber, spend the $20, get to the testing site early. Don't even think about your car.
Yep.
Just get there, because the thing is, you're going to be there all huffy and puffy and late, walking in the door at the last minute and all dirty and upset.
Yep.
Or you go, you know what, I can do that. You can be just as dirty and upset after the test as before the test. You can get there and be relaxed. And actually, I was going to say the same thing. Those test questions, every testing center, every different company, and matter of fact, if you've taken more than one exam over the years, they change how it works. Take the 10 minutes, your test time doesn't start. Take the 10 minutes and answer the 10 little questions they have and figure out how the system works just so you're relaxed going into your first question.
Yep. Okay. A big part of taking a test and passing it is actually understanding the question. And that's the big thing. And we talked a bit about here where you might have some local areas that are unique in the way they write that test. So I would strongly suggest that you do all our preparation material and contact our office. Say, hey, listen, I'm going to be taking a test in Arizona. Do you know somebody in Arizona, or do you know somebody in Washington, or some other state that we can guide you to somebody in that area there, so you can take their local class for a weekend? Oh, but they're going to charge you $400. I bet you spent $400 for something in the last year that probably is not going to get you the same value as you passing a test. Find out the local stuff and all the little local tips and fly out there if you have to do whatever you have to do if you're kind of going to another state. Okay? Another question?
That $400 is cheap.
Yes,
When
it
you
is.
start thinking about, like the gentleman that I said 13 times, he had the retesting fees, he had to take off of work, he had to get a hotel. I mean, when you start adding that all up, he probably spent $5-6 grand between all those. That $400 is cheap.
And you know what? It doesn't matter how much you spend.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it costs you to buy the study material. People are, Mike, I don't have a lot of money, man. You think I can use the 2014 code book? Somebody gave me some of your videotapes, and I'm thinking, yeah. How do you ask a question? Can I use a book that's not a book for the test? I mean, like, what kind of mentality is that? So people, you need to forget about what it costs you. You need to get the tools. You got to get the material, whatever it takes to pass it, because he took it 13 times. Let's say it cost him $5,000. Yeah, think he made more than $5,000 in his lifetime because he became licensed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't afford not to.
You can't afford not to. This is not a time for you to start being cheap. Robert from Oklahoma says, Omaha, says take extra calculators and pens and papers and straight rulers. Yeah. Make sure you have extra stuff and pencils. Maybe they'll give it to you. Maybe they don't give it to you. Maybe they'll allow you to use it. Maybe they won't allow you to use it. Anything else, Brad?
No, good.
Brian?
I was going to say a couple of things. Number one, I was actually going to mention the calculators. Make sure you're careful what calculator you take. Make sure you know your calculator before you go there. Don't go buy one. And make sure you check, because a lot of calculators are programmable, and they will not allow that in a lot of testing sites. No programmable calculators are allowed. So when you're doing that, you really need to make sure that you're careful. What do you have? Solar powered calculator, hopefully with a battery backup, and all the simple functions, not something real fancy.
I always
I
learned
would
that you don't take a solar calculator because sometimes it won't.
Solar with the
Right.
battery backup.
With a battery backup, yes.
Yeah.
see all your
I don't think this
calculators. I would
one's-
not
This, they will not allow that
This
one in.
one's not allowed.
No,
Yeah.
But this one is.
no electric calcs.
See,
Yep.
I was real simple. I wanted a calculator that was not small, that was large, had large keys, had a large display, and all I had was a add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I don't want anything with programming. And I took that calculator. It was a certain spot where I was working at. And I used that thing, and I got myself where I can quickly use the calculator inside there. So yeah, this is not the night before like, oh, that's a cool calculator, I'm going to get that. No. This is something, I wouldn't use a little tiny thing like this here. You saw I was trying to work some things during the videos, and I kept coming with the wrong answer because I'm trying to do it on my phone, which is okay, but no, get a calculator that is big as you can, largest key, largest display, not with all kinds of functions, and then
Silent.
use it.
Silent. It has to be silent.
Yeah.
Okay, silent.
No
good.
printing out, nothing. It cannot make any noise.
Okay, I'm moving on to, yes, Boyd?
One other thing is a lot of times, a lot of testing agencies won't let you take in anything besides the book, and they'll give you a paper or they'll give you a board where you can write stuff on. In my opinion, that's the time to unload your brain with all these extra formulas you've been memorizing, the voltage drop formulas or Ohm's law or whatever that you might think you might need at that point, so that when it comes time to have that question, you don't have to remember it. It's already on a piece of paper.
One time they actually gave you formulas they were going to use for tests. I don't know if they do that anymore. Do they not give you the formulas anymore? But you're right. You know what? You find out what you need to do, whatever you got to go. All right, let's move on. You're taking a question, you're reviewing it, you're verifying it. Do not just do a mental mathematical calculation. Get your calculator out. I don't care if it says, what is 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 equals. How do I turn this thing on? There we go. Okay. 2 plus 2 equals, and it is 4. A perfect example. Like, how do you turn this sucker on? You know? Oh, and you can see, like, it's broken. It's not working. Well, I didn't realize they actually had
Know
an
how
on
to use
button.
your calculator before you go in there.
There you go. All right, back over here. All right. Read it, use your calculator, go to the code book. You need to really be familiar with the code book. You need to have thousands of questions. We have all kinds. Our exam prep book, I think, has 37 practice quizzes in the back of it. Either 27 or 37 50-question practice quizzes. Let me tell you something. You finish that up after you're doing the whole book and all the other questions, you're good to go. Now, when you get into taking a question, at the quiz, and you see a question and you're not sure, skip it. You can answer it. Don't you have the function to answer but not to save?
You can mark it.
Mark
come
it.
back
Just
to
mark it. Let me come back later on to that. So you're going to take the first pass. Let's say you had 100 questions. You go, you read the question, you look it up, you mark it, you skip the next one. That's way too many. I skipped that. You do the easy questions first on the first pass. Then you come back again and you look at those questions again. You're like, oh, that question I thought was hard. It's actually pretty easy. I wouldn't do calculations generally on the first pass. I would do the ones that are just easy to look up. And the second pass, the ones like a little bit of work. And then you get to the third pass, and you're like, okay. And then you start spending a little bit more time. Now you might be running out of time. If you run out of time, you're running out of time on those questions that you're not sure. You don't want to do question 1, then 2. And then you find out you're at question 80, and they say time is up. Better that you've answered all 80 questions, and you have 20 questions that you're near the end of the time, and you have no clue what it is, and then you start doing some kind of game that we'll talk about. Brian?
Well, one thing that I've noticed over the years, and I actually do exactly that, I make about 3 passes through the test, and the first time I answer the real easy ones, but I'm reading every single question. Because
Yes.
what I find is,
Yeah.
by the time I get to the end, I'm like, oh, there's the answer to question number 3 right there. How
Or-
interesting.
Or it's not the answer,
Well,
but it
co-
lets you know
reference,
that
yeah.
what is not the answer.
Exactly,
You
exactly.
say, oh, wait a minute. Man, I got twisted around. This is the answer for this.
And so then you go back, and on the second pass, even though you're doing harder questions, they're coming to you easier because your perspective is better. They seem to, for whatever reason, theme the questions and
Yeah.
kind of spread them out a little bit.
And you're more comfortable the second. Like, oh, gosh, I thought that was hard.
Yeah.
Dennis?
You've relaxed
Yep.
in that first reading. And the thing about it is what you're doing, you're actually making, and you said time management earlier, you're making time a partner, because what you're doing is you're not spending time in the calculations, you're not spending time in the code book. Instead of taking 2.5 minutes to read that question or answer that question, you're only taking a minute. So if you answer 60 questions in 30 minutes, you just bought yourself 30 minutes, or if not more time.
All
So
right.
that's the thing about going through the first time and the second time.
All right. Robert suggests here, bring a straight edge with you, right? Ruler to look
Ruler.
up things in a code book.
Yep.
Right? You need to be able to find it. Okay, let's move on. All right. We've done 3 passes. We're done. We have 7 questions. We have no clue. Eric, give me some. I'm just going to gamble here. What can I do?
Okay, great question. Believe it or not, the longest answer is typically the right answer.
Oh.
It is almost invariable that because here's the deal: when you write an answers for a test question, the longest answer is the most detailed. In order to be accurate, you usually have to have detail. And when you try to come up with wrong answers, which are called distractors, you typically just blow them off. You say, oh, just 34, or you have some answer. So the test-taking companies that tell you how to write these tests, tell the people who write the tests, make sure that all your answers are about the right length.
Okay, what about all of these, none of these, A, B, C, D?
Right, so when all of these is an answer choice, it is correct 85% of the time. When none of these is an answer choice, it is wrong 85% of the time. And so there's all these issues of what you're supposed to do. Now, it used to be, maybe a couple decades ago, that the most of the correct answers were either B or C.
Yeah.
And so when we got to the point where you're talking about, I have a few minutes left in the exam, the choice was either pick B or pick C, and then go with it. What the testing companies are doing now is they're recommending if you have 40 answers or 40 questions, 10 of them should be A, 10 of them should B, 10 should be C, and 10 should be D.
So there's no way to know what that's going to be.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we are guessing high, throw out the low, go in the middle. I'm just guessing. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to get all stressed out about
Well,
that.
I think there, Mike, is use your answers to answer your question. Read your question, read the first answer, and go true or false. Because you're going to be able to look at it and read it and go, does it really fit into this question? And if it does, if it makes no sense, then put false. Read the question, read the next answer. And I think if that's process of elimination, at least if you can
You're
get
saying,
it down to
is
50-50.
Is A the correct answer?
True or false?
Read the question like that. Is B? No, B is not true. Okay, read the whole question again and go C.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, read the whole question again and go D. Exactly right.
And the other thing, I don't know if we're at this point yet, but I was beginning to say earlier, it is a proven statistic in test taking that the people who stay the longest get the highest score. This is a revelation to a lot of students because I say, if you're sitting there and it's a 4-hour test, if you're sitting there and you see people get up and leave, a lot of people think, oh, that person must be really smart. I go, no, that person's a quitter. Okay?
100%.
That person's
Listen, nobody who's preparing for a test would get up 1 second, not 1 second before. As a matter of fact, when we used to take tests, I would tell my students they had to come and take the paper away from you. You gain another 30 seconds. You're right. Anybody getting up and leaving? Okay, you say, loser. That's what you do. That one is not going to make it. Yes.
Well, and I just want to reiterate that, sometimes I find myself, I feel really good and I'm done really early. I don't get up and leave. I go back to question one.
Yep.
Now I go one at a time and I look up every single question, rework every single problem, and just make sure that everything that I'm doing is 100% spot on.
Dennis, like you said, you manage your time to get the extra 30 minutes. And when you get done, you go to the bathroom, you take a little break, you sit down, put some water in your face, you stretch in the bathroom, you come back out, and you're like, okay, question 1, 2. Now, let's talk about changing your answers. You never change your answer,
right.
ever, unless what?
You
got a
find it
darn
word
good
for word
reason.
for word
It's wrong.
in the code book
You
that
only
you're
change an answer because you realize it's wrong.
wrong. Yeah.
Not like, maybe it is. No. If you're wondering whether it's something else or not, then you don't change it. No. It's only when you look at it like, how did I pick that answer? And then you look at the question like, okay, clearly I made a mistake. So you do your final pass, you check every single thing, you never change your answer unless you made a mistake and you see it. Rounding off, we're talking about rounding when you choose questions in an exam. You see how they round them off. Did they round them off to the nearest watt, to the nearest amp, to the nearest to the nearest 5 kW? Is it like 5, 10, 15, 20 kW? And you had an answer of 9.3 kW? And it's 5, 10, 15, 20? Well, if it's 9.3, what else can you do but pick 10 kW? So watch how the rounding is when you make your choices. Brian?
I was just going to say, when we're talking about that, when you're working formulas, make sure you start out, you write down the whole formula, then you write down the whole formula with every single number in it. Don't be skipping steps because it's so easy. You think, oh, that's just 2 plus 3. I can do that in my head. And somehow you get convoluted and add the wrong thing to the wrong thing because you're under pressure, and then you get a wrong answer for a problem that you know how to do cold. So it's just a bad idea. So take the time to write the formulas out when you need
When
to
you
do
get
it.
calculation questions, you get the words and you write, okay, it's voltage is 120. Duty cycle, 30%. Primary current. Motor, right?
Yep.
You guys saw me working on it. I had to keep going back and forth. But if I had written down, it is a non-motor generator, right?
Yep.
Well, arc welder. And it primary is this, and the duty cycle was this. And then I have to write the questions down. Branch circuit conductor, branch circuit protection. How easy is it for me to sit down and look at my piece of paper, because I have control, rather than me trying to No, you can't. You got to have it written down and clearly organized. Draw out the calculations, draw out the motor, draw out the examples. Do what you got to do to make it relevant to you. Okay, let's talk about what to be careful about. I'm almost finished here. Don't get stuck on a question. Sometimes it's like between you and a question, I'm winning this question. And you stay on that. Listen, you and me, we're not going anywhere until we get this worked out. How many guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Guys get stuck on a question and they look up and they realize, oh my gosh, I just spent 20 minutes. I didn't realize that. Usually that person will not pass.
Yep.
They could easily pass. They just made a mistake. It happens.
Take one of the egg timers, okay, and use it so you get used to what 3 minutes is. Because most tests, it's going to take you 2.5 to 3 minutes is what you have on a question. So if you get used to, and this goes back to the time management, if you get used to in your mind going, this is 2.5 minutes or this is 3 minutes, and I've spent this much time on it, skip it, move on.
Figure out whatever you have to do.
Right.
Whatever you got to do. You just can't get stuck. But listen, it happens. You get emotionally involved in this one question and you just couldn't get out of it. I understand. And then it didn't work well. Okay, you know what? You're going to take the test again and you're going to pass it. It's not that big of a deal. All right, let's stay. Last thing I have, be careful on, don't get stuck on a question. Read each question carefully. Be sure you mark the right answer, when you make that choice. Don't become frustrated or extremely tense. You can become frustrated and tense because, first of all, when you're beginning, that's like you said, Dennis, you just get to the first pass easy. Out of 100 questions, let's say you answered 35. Okay, we're not trying to answer 100. We're just trying to get into it. Second time around, third time around. All right, let me summarize everything. Make sure everything is ready and packed the night before you're ready to go. Don't try to cram the night before. Have a good breakfast. Funny how you guys said all these things here. And here's right. Have a good breakfast. Take your reference books. Let the proctors tell you what you can and cannot use. Know where the exam is going to be held and arrive early. Interesting, you guys said all these things. Bring identification, that's a good one, and confirmation. Bring all your paperwork with you so you have all that stuff.
Two forms of ID typically.
Okay, bring your identification. Review your code while you're waiting in your exam. The exam's not going to start, let's say, well then just get your code book out. Just start looking at table count. Just, start whatever it is. Try to stay calm and relax. When you're ready, you'll be fine. Determine the time per question for each pass and determine the time per question for each pass and don't forget to save time to go back to the ones you skipped over.
Right.
Remember the first pass, answer only the easy ones, the second, third, fourth pass, put it together. Brian.
Just before you go too much further, you were talking about stay calm. And I tell my students this all the time. Sometimes you're going to get to the test and you're freaking completely out. I don't know why. I mean, I've even gone in and I know the stuff cold and I'm freaking out. Close your eyes. Take a few really deep breaths. Just take some deep breaths and go, okay, I got this. Don't look around. Don't be like staring at everybody getting ready. Just take a couple of seconds and just, okay, I'm ready to go. And then you're going to be like, okay, I'm focused. I'm relaxed now. And your body naturally, there's something in the way that you chemistry your body when you do that.
There is something about breathing.
It brings your adrenaline down.
About
and
breathing
your heart
deep.
rate.
Yes.
And you just relax.
It tenses your body. And then when you relax it,
Yep.
and also, a little prayer right there at that
Absolutely.
same time. Lord,
Hey, listen.
you're in control.
And here's the big
I'm
benefit.
ready. I'm there.
You're going to have butterflies.
Yep.
The big thing about it is if you do all this and you get rid of it, your butterflies are flying in formation.
Like that.
That's the key, is get them flying in formation.
The other thing it's really good to tell yourself is just do what you know to do. Just repeat that. Just do what you know to do. You said something yesterday or the day before. It's like if you tell a kid, don't run, what does he hear? Run.
Yep.
So our brain works the exact same way. If we tell ourselves not to do something like don't panic, our brain is
panic.
focusing on panic.
Right.
And so if you just say, just do what you know to do. And let me tell you something. These tests, they are marathons. They are all
Yes.
about endurance. And it is difficult to focus and concentrate and endure to be focused like that for 4 hours or however long the test is. These are marathons, and you have to prepare for a marathon.
Last thing I want to close up. the textbook is specifically designed. Journeyman, masters, inspector certification programs. Now, you do have these practice exams that these testing agencies give you. Not one of those questions are
No.
ever going to be on your test. All you're doing is wasting your time. You have thousands of questions in our book that's not going to waste your time. And what you do is you mark all the questions that you missed and highlight it. And when you get all done, guess what you do? You go back to every one question that you missed and you take it again because your answer key is separate. Is that right?
Right.
And you say, okay, question number, whatever it is. I missed that one. And you're like, then when you get done with that one, so just your quiz at the end would be to take a quiz of all the questions that you miss and then see how you do that. And you go back again. So there's 20 or 30 practice quizzes in the back. So I would not be taking any of those practice quizzes by those testing agencies because it's not designed to give you anything.
Well, real quick, Mike, I mean, the test itself, maximum question amount, 100 questions. So now if you take your theory book, your grounding and bonding book, your UNAC book, your exam prep book, we're talking 10,000 questions.
Right.
You cannot tell me you're taking 100 questions out of that 10,000 questions that if you study and do that over a 2 to 3 week period, you are not going to find, or a month period, whatever time it takes you to get through all that material, you cannot tell me that you have not covered those 100 questions.
Let's talk about how long it takes. It takes 6 to 8 months. And if you're thinking you're going to do this in 6 weeks or you're going to take a 2-day program, I'm not going to say somebody can't pass a test. But my concern is this: you're not qualified, and you know you're not qualified, and you're supposed to be the next leaders of this country, in this industry. And you need to know what you're doing. You need to understand what's going on. So you plan on 6 to 8 months of preparing and building up. And when you get there, like when I train for barefoot for tournaments, world-class tournaments, while I'm training, here's what I say to the guys. Okay, guys, it's Holtzy getting in the water, going on his first pass. He did the world. I'm acting and making all this sound as if this is the announcer announcing me. This is every single practice run that I'm doing. Then when I go to the world championship or a national championship, guess what? It's practice. I'm just practicing. I'm just practicing. I know how well I'm going to do at the national championship because I know how well I'm practicing. And I'm practicing as if this is a world championship. So therefore, when it comes time for me to go to a world championship, it's practice. I know when I prepare for what my scores are going to be. This is not going to be a surprise. So you need to get your material, you need to prepare, and you need to practice. And then you have your simulated exams at the end of all this. You're gonna do great. So it's work, it's commitment, it's an investment in your time, and it's an investment of your money, it's an investment of your family. It's a lot of stress, but I have to tell you what, I got a pretty good life. All you guys are on this team here, you guys are successful beyond probably all of us ever imagined we were going to do.
Sure.
I think it's pretty good. Look at Mike Colbert, master electrician here. Look, he took my class, and then when he took the class, a home study course is what he did, he complained about it. You got all kinds of mistakes here. Rah, 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 rah. If you know me, I'm like, yeah, good. Come here. Let me give you a copy here. Help me out here. You know what I mean? I'm not going to complain, I'm sure.
Exactly.
And Mike Colbert has been doing this for 30 years, and he individually has changed dramatically the industry with the images that he's created.
Yes.
He has, the young kids, my goodness, they are able to look at this stuff and say, oh, wow. So I got goosebumps just from what you've done. And he is a master electrician. All right, guys. I appreciate this, and I hope you just have a wonderful, wonderful, successful life. And God bless.